The success of a company, group or team relies so heavily on the organisation and techniques applied by leaders and managers. In order to create successful team environments, understanding contingency theories is becoming a major focus for leaders within these organisations. Three of the most prevalent contingency theories are Hersey and Blanchard's situational leadership theory, otherwise known as SLT, Fiedler's contingency model, and the path goal theory, which was developed by Robert House. Each theory has a similar general goal, which is leading a group or team towards a common aim in the most effective and efficient way possible. As each theory shares this similar goal, they tend to also show some similarities. Although this may be the case, the theories show differences in assessing group situations and what the most effective way is to direct a group or team towards that common goal. Taking this into consideration, our team of experts made up of Leonie, Sarah and Yuta will elaborate on the aforementioned theories. The girls will provide you with an in-depth understanding on how each theory works, whilst also showing examples of each theory through real-world cases. Firstly, I would like to introduce Leonie to discuss Fiedler's model of leadership.
Thank you, Matthew. My name's Leonie and I'll be discussing Fiedler's model of leadership. Fiedler's contingency model provides a framework for understanding leadership effectiveness. It looks at the factors to ascertain how a leader's personal attributes and the way they interact with the team will affect the performance of the team. The research into leadership that has been conducted concludes that a person not only becomes a leader because of their personal attributes, but also on situational factors and on the interaction between the personality and the situation. Fiedler's research developed two measurements of leadership styles, the least preferred co-worker and the assumed similarity between opposites score. It also introduces situational favorableness, which is the way a leadership situation provides the leader with influence. The least preferred co-worker scale, or LPC, is where the leader is asked what traits can be attributed to a worker that the leader least prefers. The performance of the team relies on good leader and member relations, clear goals and procedure tasks, and that the leader is able to reward and punish. If all three of these things are not in the right combination, then the leadership will fail. Fiedler's main emphasis was that the leader's personality or psychological disposition is the main variable in the ability to lead. The way in which a group sees the leader, the tasks required, and whether the leader can exert control are the principles that will determine how effective the leadership will be. Leaders who are unable to control a group situation cannot be sure that the tasks ascribed to someone are being followed. The difference between high and low LPC scores is that low scores tend to rely on the task to drive leadership, so the task must be manageable and well defined, whereas high LPC scores is where the task is less important but the human relations aspect is. The LPC scores can be used to identify appropriate leaders for a particular situation. If a leader can control taskings, lead situations and obtain power, this would lead to a favourable leadership in the organisation. Fiedler's theory is well researched and can assist enormously with leaders where good personal relations are matched to poorly structured tasks, and for leaders who are impersonal, for they are placed in task-structured environments. This theory is more flexible than others. The issues with this theory is that the LPC can be very subjective and the characteristics that are used to get this score when used in a particular context are very relative. The LPC score is only valid for groups that are closely supervised, and there are doubts that this theory is effective when the task is not well defined and there are no choices available for the leader. As the diagram shows, there are leader-member relations, task structure, and leader-position power. Leader-member relations refer to the trust, respect, and confidence between the leader and the team. Task structure is about whether or not the tasks that the group conduct are clearly defined. The leader-position power is referring to the power of the leader's position. Where there is a good leader and member relations, well-defined tasks, and a high leader's power position, then this would be favourable position. Low LPC scores leaders are more effective in extremely favourable or extremely unfavourable situations, whereas high LPC score leaders perform better when there aren't these extremes.
Thank you, Leonie. We will now hear from Sarah regarding the situational leadership theory.
Thank you, Matt and Leonie. So situational leadership theory focuses on the followers. It says that successful leadership is achieved by selecting the right leadership style contingent on the followers' readiness or extent to which they are willing and able to accomplish a specific task. The SLT states that leaders should be flexible with their styles of leadership. Their leadership style should be adjusted based on their followers' willingness and ability to do a task, or their task behaviours and relationship behaviours. The SLT promotes flexible leaders that are able to match their styles to the experience and ability of those they are leading. As this diagram shows, we can see the relationship between task behaviours and relationship behaviours. Leadership has two aspects: the amount of direction or task behaviour a leader gives, and the support or relationship behaviour a leader provides. The different S levels are the style that the leader has in response to the task and relationship behaviours. At S1, there is a high task focus, low relationship focus. At this stage, the leader should be defining, planning, teaching, showing, telling, and giving feedback. At S2, there is a high task focus, high relationship focus. This style, the leader should be exploring, asking, explaining, clarifying, redirecting, sharing feedback, encouraging, and praising. At S3, there is a low task focus, high relationship focus. At this style, the leader should be asking, listening, reassuring, facilitating, collaborating, encouraging feedback, and appreciating. At S4, there is a low task focus, low relationship focus. At this style, the leader should be allowing, trusting, confirming, empowering, affirming, acknowledging, and challenging. A leader should choose one of four behaviours depending on the follower readiness. R1, the followers are unable and unwilling to do a task. At this situation, the leader needs to give clear and specific directions. At R2, the followers are unable and willing. Here, the leader needs to display high task orientation to compensate for followers' lack of ability and high relationship orientation to get them to buy into the leader's desires. At R3, the followers are able and unwilling. Here, the leaders need to use a supportive and participative style. At R4, the followers are both able and willing. At this stage, the leader doesn't need to do much. The leadership style of the leader must correspond to the development level of the follower. The leader adapts their style to the follower's development level or follower readiness.
Thank you, Sarah. We will now hand over to Yuda to discuss House's path goal theory of leadership.
Thank you, Matthew. Leadership is the process of influencing the activities of individuals or organized groups towards the achievement of certain goals and objectives. According to House's path goal theory, the leader provides necessary direction and support to subordinates to achieve individual as well as organizational goals. This leadership theory was developed by Robert House in 1971 and then was revised in 1996. The theory states that the leader's behavior is contingent to the satisfaction, motivation, and performance of their subordinates. Path goal theory emphasizes the match between leader behavior and the characteristics of subordinates along with work settings. House's path goal theory explains how flexible leaders aim to achieve high levels of group effectiveness with its subordinates by motivation through clarification, direction, structure, and rewards. This theory consists of two contingency groups that affects the outcome from the leadership group to the characteristics of the subordinate group or employee group and the work environment, as shown in this diagram. There are four kinds of leadership behaviors defined in House's path goal theory. These are directive leadership, supportive leadership, participative, and achievement-oriented. Then, in 1996, the theory formulated two more leadership styles. These are value-based and shared leadership. Directive leadership is when the manager or supervisor clarifies the goal objectives to their employees. They provide structure and expectations along with informing subordinates the policies and procedures. A directive leader would structure and coordinate work, giving specific guidelines along the way. The purpose of this leadership style is to reduce role ambiguity and simplify follower perceptions concerning the outcomes and consequences of their efforts through rewards, job security recognition, etc. Supportive leadership reduces the stress and anxiety of the subordinates through generating a friendly, positive work environment by the leader. This also results in increased self-esteem, increased togetherness, and prevents the feeling of alienation. All in all, the employee's needs are what is focused on. The leader prioritizes the subordinate's welfare and can make work tasks more interesting and provide constant positive feedback. All these factors are implemented to increase performance and achieve goal objectives. Achievement-oriented leadership removes any roadblocks or obstacles preventing subordinates from reaching their goal objectives. The leader sets out more challenging goals for their employees and gives them the confidence to be able to strive higher and achieve more difficult tasks. It's all about constant improvement for the subordinates and the leader enabling them to have more confidence in their ability to strive for higher standards of performance. Through these factors, employees are able to find their work tasks more interesting and become more motivated. Participative leadership is seeing your subordinates as team members and making them feel valued by involving them in making decisions. Participative leadership can create trust between the subordinate and leader because the subordinates are asked for their advice, meaning their knowledge and skills are treasured by their leader. In 1996, Robert House reevaluated his theory and currently now has 8 different versions of leadership behavior. 2 of these additional leadership behaviors are shared leadership and value-based leadership. Shared leadership is when managers entrust responsibility to their employees. Instead of keeping all the power at the top to themselves, the leader's power is shared amongst its subordinates. This leadership style allows the enhancement of skills and knowledge as a whole and will most likely lead to more rules being followed and greater success for the company. Value-based leadership behaviors include articulation of a vision of a better future for followers, to which the followers are claimed to have a moral right. A display of passion for the vision and significant self-sacrifice in the interest of the vision and the collective. Demonstration of self-confidence, confidence in the attainment of the vision, and determination and persistence in the interest of the vision. Selectively arousal of the non-conscious motives of followers that are of special relevance to the attainment of the vision. Taking extraordinary personal and organizational risks in the interest of the vision and the collective. Communication of high performance expectations of followers and confidence in their ability to contribute to the collective effort. The use of symbolic behaviors that emphasize the values inherent in the collective vision. Frequent positive evaluation of followers and the collective.
Thank you, Yuda. In today's world, organizations need to be flexible. This means that the leaders in those organizations also need to be flexible in order to adapt to adversity. The adversities commonly faced by the organizations include economic conditions, increasing competitive pressures, changing procurement models, technology advances, utilization of labor and the labor pool, outsourcing, increasing diversity, flexible work arrangements including female participation, and environmental issues, just to name a few. For example, changes in technology can cause a big stir among employees. Some may pick up new systems easily, while others may require more training and reassurance. Leaders and managers need to be flexible in their approaches to ensure a smooth transition. As outlined by Yuki and Masood, the contingency theories are relevant for flexible and adaptive leadership because they provide insights about how to diagnose the situation and identify forms of behaviour likely to be affected for a leader. After hearing from Leonie, Sarah, and Yuta, we too are in agreement with Yuki and Masood's research, and we too believe that contingency theories promote flexible and adaptive leadership, which make them effective for constantly changing modern organisations. So, are these contingency theories present in real-life organisations? We'll now go back to our specialists who have some examples of each theory in action.
Thank you, Matthew. It's Leonie here, and I was looking at Fiedler's theory. There was a study conducted into Fiedler's theory and whether it was effective in the appointment and selection of nursing team leaders. This contingency model was chosen as it not only addresses leadership style and situational variables, but would also predict the effectiveness of the leader. There were 140 nurses sampled, and the result was that none of the three areas of the theory were supported in the study. The leadership of the team was found to be equally split between the task and relationship-oriented approach. The higher the level of nursing education had a significant effect on the leadership effectiveness.
Thanks, Leonie. Sarah will now show an example of the situational leadership theory in practice.
Thanks, Matthew. Research into situational leadership theory has produced disappointing results into the reliability and validity of the theory. As Robbins, Judge, Millett and Boyle point out, this is possibly because of ambiguities and inconsistencies in the model itself, as well as problems with research methodology and tests. However, there was a recent study by Thompson and Glasso which suggests that situational leadership theory could still be effective. The study was conducted on 80 supervisors and 357 followers in financial organizations. The study found that measuring the degree of agreement between leader rating of follower competence and commitment and follower self-rating was found to be a core issue for determining follower competence and commitment. SLT predictions are more likely to hold when leader rating and follower self-rating are congruent, rather than using leader rating alone, which has been applied in previous studies. A leader-follower congruence approach will, in the author's view, constitute the future research avenue for research on SLT. This research does suggest that the theory could still be effective. The fact that it promotes flexible and adaptive leadership suggests that it goes hand in hand with modern organizations. For example, if a company has implemented a new IT system, leaders or managers will need to ensure the smooth transition into the application of the new technology. Everyone's ability and willingness will be different and not happen simultaneously. So leaders or managers can adapt their leadership style to ensure an efficient implementation of the system. Employees will be unable and either unwilling or willing. Leaders will need to adapt to these changes in employees' ability and willingness to ensure follower readiness. Every employee will learn at different speeds and will be willing to take on changes at different times. SLT will promote adaptive and flexible leaders, which are crucial for modern organizations.
Thank you, Sarah. Now, Yuta will demonstrate a real-life example of House's path goal contingency theory.
Thank you, Matthew. Columbia Records has been a real-life legacy to House's path goal theory. Adapting to each leadership style has made the company become as successful as it is today. Edward Easton, the founder of Columbia Records, implemented 3 path goal leadership styles: participative, value-based, and supportive leadership. In the late 19th century, Edward Easton showed participative leadership through his eagerness to sought after advice from his subordinates. Following by his example, leading into the 20th century, the managers of the company has allowed hundreds of workers to contribute inventions into the music industry. Asking employees for their advice has led Columbia products to be less expensive but still quite serviceable. Edward Easton implemented a value-based leadership style because he was so passionate about his company and leading it to success. He deliberated a lot of self-sacrifice and took a lot of risks for the company. The head of Columbia Records during the 1970s, Goddard Lieberson, not only continued on Easton's value-based leadership style, but he also showed a supportive leadership style. He believed that it was more beneficial for the company if they let its artists have more control of their own musical projects with constant positive feedback and increasing their self-esteem through encouragement. It was also in everyone's best interest that the leaders create a positive and healthy working environment. Through the leadership styles adopted by the managers of Columbia Records, the company has been able to harbor and record musical greats such as Beyoncé, Billy Joel, Barbra Streisand, Carlos Santana, and Pink Floyd.
Thank you, Yuda. I will now move on to comparing and contrasting these three leadership theories. Hersey's situational leadership theory, otherwise known as the SLT, revolves heavily around followers. This theory suggests that leaders and managers must choose their leadership approach based on the followers' readiness. Thus, a leader must vary in styles according to their followers' willingness and ability to carry out a designated task. Hersey's situational leadership theory differs from Fiedler's model in that it suggests that managers must change their leadership styles. Furthermore, Fiedler's model of leadership has a great focus on the leader and their style more so than the followers or particular situation. Whilst Fiedler's theory does relate to the situation and the followers, it suggests that if the leadership style is not suitable for the situation, then the leader must be replaced or the situation must be changed in order to gain the most desirable outcome. The path goal theory also revolves around the situation in which followers find themselves in, but different approaches are believed to be more effective in different situations. This theory predominantly focuses on leaders mapping out a pathway for their followers and providing a great deal of guidance in order to complete a given task. The path goal theory suggests that leaders reduce any roadblocks as well as adapting their styles according to the development level of employees. Back to Hersey's situational leadership. It differs from Fiedler's model in that it suggests that managers must change their leadership styles, whereas Fiedler's theory implies that leaders must have a fixed style. That style must fit the particular situation or it will simply not be effective. The path goal theory may also promote flexibility in leadership styles, but it differs from the situational leadership theory in that the leader's behaviour is contingent to the follower's satisfaction, motivation and performance, rather than the leader's behaviour being contingent to the follower's willingness and ability, which can be seen in the situational leadership theory. As mentioned previously, all of these theories are implemented by managers in order to create an effective team environment which will end and enable them to reach a common goal in the most effective and efficient way possible. Thus, the theories do share certain similarities. Both Hersey's situational leadership theory and the path goal theory promote flexible leadership styles. This flexibility enables managers to adapt to adverse situations and helps them work well with different employees as well as in different situations. Fiedler's contingency model promotes leaders to focus on task and relationship orientation, which can also be seen in Hersey's situational leadership theory. So, after each theory is taken into consideration, it is evident that these theories must be applied in order to create a successful team environment, whether it is in a small team or a large organisation. To end, we return to Yuki and Masood's research. This research provides us with a few suggestions for improving flexible and adaptive leadership. These are: 1. To learn to diagnose the situation and use relevant contingency theories to identify appropriate types of leadership behaviour for each type of situation. Increase flexibility by learning how to use a wide range of relevant behaviours. Methods found to be useful for improving behaviour include multi-source feedback, behavioural modelling, role-playing and executive coaching. And finally, proactively influence aspects of the situation to create substitutes for leadership. For example, improve the selection of competent subordinates to reduce the need for close supervision and direction. Finally, I leave you with Yuda and Sarah to demonstrate a couple of fun activities regarding two of the discussed leadership theories.
Thank you, Matthew. Please refer to your handout activity sheet on House's path goal theory. In this activity, you'll be required to match up the leadership characteristics in the middle column to its leadership style in the outer column, which you think is best fitted. Your answers will then be discussed in the next week's Collaborate session.
Thanks, Yuta. So this activity will test what you've learnt today on situational leadership theory. When answering the questions, the model that was used earlier is a good tool to use when answering them. Don't forget to bring your answers to the Collaborate. So this leader is encouraging and trying to build confidence in his followers. Are his followers A, R1, unable and unwilling, B, R2, unable and willing, C, R3, able and unwilling, or D, R4, able and willing? Also, what leadership style is he using? A, selling, B, telling, C, participating, or D, delegating? See you in the Collaborate.